stuck to you there? What's that all about?
Oh, what is that?
I have no idea what that is. That's a way to get started. Don't stick it to me. Good grief.
Where did that even come from?
Boy, I'm really getting this off on the wrong foot. It's like gum or something.
Yeah, I think it's like a tape.
Stuck like... Yeah. Boy, oh boy. What's going on, everybody?
What's up?
Welcome to the Geeking Squad podcast here on the Geeking Poetic channel. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. This sticky one next to me that's all of a sudden just out of nowhere producing sticky things and throwing them at me is none other than
Megan Guess.
And we're here to talk about some pop culture news.
Yes.
That's the whole point of this show. Geeking Squad podcast, we talk about things that are being discussed online, especially in our group, the Geeking Squad group on Facebook. It's free and open for everybody to join. Just be cool, right?
Right. No politics, no religion.
Yeah, none of your baloney, all right? We don't
Everybody be nice to each other.
Yeah, we don't need baloney in there. Salami, maybe. No baloney. So,
Ham for sure.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff that's been going on the last couple of weeks, since the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's been going on in pop culture. So music, TV, movies, comics, books, all
Toys, all of it.
Toys, everything. Yeah, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. First of all, like I like to do as a little courtesy here to my co-host, I like to ask Megan, how's it been going?
I had a horrible day.
Oh.
I found my first gray hair.
Oh, boy.
It was very heartbreaking. I was like, what is that? I thought it was just a really shiny blonde hair, but it's not.
No, it's the grays.
No, and I went and cried to everybody at work about it.
Oh, boy. I'm sure they were real sympathetic.
Yeah, they're like, join the club.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I've got plenty of gray hairs coming in there. I'm hiding it as much as possible. But this beard ain't hiding anything.
That beard hides nothing.
No, exactly. So much for people being like, you look like you should only be 34 years old. It's like they're looking at my beard and stuff now going, no, he's old. He's older.
Older and wiser.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we're going to tell ourselves.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, enough hullabaloo. That's showing my age right there. Let's get into the first segment. And this segment is kind of a catch-all where we talk about a lot of that current stuff going on, little news bits and fun things like that. And it's in a segment that we like to call...
What's shaking, bacon?
Again, there's nothing old-timey or anything about that at all.
It's true. It fits us right now.
Exactly.
We're just old.
And as usual, we like to start it out. It's always a little bit of a somber note to start out, but it's done in loving tribute to people that have recently passed. And this one, I know there's a lot of you out there, unless you're at least around my age or older, you're probably not going to be as familiar with this person, but we recently lost an amazing artist named Roger Whittaker. Are you familiar with Roger Whittaker?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I know you've heard it before and everything, but he was a described gentle-voiced British easy listening singer.
Okay.
And his main time was in the 1970s. He first had a hit in, I think it was 1969, with a song called Durham Town. I'm gonna leave old Durham Town, something like that. That was his first hit and everything, but then later he had a few more hits, but his big crossover hit into the mainstream as he had a song called The Last Farewell. And that song, I know if you heard it, I know you'd know it because I listen to it all the time. And for certain people of a certain age, and if you're from Chicago, you would recognize the music, the theme, because for years they used it as the bumper theme music for Channel 9, WGN
Oh, really?
in Chicago. Yeah. They would always play that music and then they'd have the voiceover.
WGN TV Chicago Television 9 at 8 o'clock.
So I have a very strong recollection of that. I also have a very strong recollection of this music because my parents were really into Roger Whittaker and they listened to him all the time. And so I have a really, really strong memory of hearing him all through growing up. He also had this incredible whistle. He could whistle like you wouldn't believe. Just like super melodic, strong whistling. It's probably why I'm so into whistling. I'm always whistling.
You're always the whistler in your band.
Yeah, I'm always whistling and stuff. And I think it came from growing up listening to Roger Whittaker. Well, unfortunately, he died just about a week and a half ago. And he was retired in Toulouse, France. He was 87 years old, though. I mean, he had a pretty good long life there. Yeah, they said he just died in peace in the presence of his family. That's all they said. So I don't know if it was like a long illness or...
Yeah, it sounds like it was a long, lengthy illness.
Yeah, it sounds like it was probably some kind of illness, unfortunately. But yeah, so he, is a favorite of mine, and it's a shame to see him go. I keep seeing more and more of these people from my childhood going, and it's again, speaking of, that's going to be the theme of this episode, I guess, is just getting old, just aging and things moving on. But anyway, so yeah, Roger Whittaker passed at 87, and that's a bummer, but I'm going to keep listening to his music, especially when I want to go to sleep or relax or something, because it's really good for that.
Okay.
But anyway, all right, so moving on from that, we're going to go on to, something I want to bring up. So this show is going to be the last squad cast for the month of September. As I was looking at things that were getting posted in our group and in other groups, I was noticing that there's all sorts of like anniversaries. Like we did the last episode, we were talking
a ton
about
of anniversaries.
Right, there was
The 30th anniversary.
Right, it was 30th and 50th. There was all these anniversaries for albums, for movies, for TV shows, like a lot of iconic things. Well, that continues on, and there's been a whole bunch of them, and I can't list all of them here. But the one day that really stood out to me was September 18th. So September 18th, it seems, is a very popular day in music history, especially harder rock kind of stuff and everything. But I went through and I just saw so many posts coming up about, like, on this day and this year and everything, and it was all on that day, and so I took note of them. There was a lot of stuff that happened. So sadly, it marks the day that legendary guitarist and musician and songwriter Jimi Hendrix passed away. He passed away September 18th, 1970. And people are still reeling from that because, frankly, he's still one of the greatest. Even, over 50 years later, man, he's still considered like one of the dudes. As a guitar player, let me tell you, there's still guitar players, even guitar players that are in their teens and stuff, that are trying to sound like and emulate Hendrix. So yeah, that happened all the way back in 1970. That same day in 1970, Black Sabbath released their landmark album Paranoid. So that was a big day, man.
Yeah.
You lose Hendrix and you get Paranoid. And that album, I mean, even you're not like a huge Black Sabbath fan, but you're well, acquainted with Paranoid. A few years later, Boston really hit the charts with their first single, More Than a Feeling, which was a massive hit in 1976. You know that song, right?
Yes, I know that one.
Okay.
All right. Same day, September 18th?
September 18th,
Wow.
yeah. And it was just a few years later. And then a couple years after that, Kiss, we know about Kiss around here. If you're around me, you know about Kiss.
We know all about
Yeah, because I'm a fanatical Kiss fan. They made history by releasing 4 solo albums simultaneously. September 18th, 1978. That was the first time that had ever been done, that a band had... other members of bands had done solo albums while they were still in the band, but this was the first time that they came out simultaneously. It was actually a really cool idea. Unfortunately, the record label over promoted it, overprinted it and everything, and the albums were deemed a failure because there was all sorts of returns and stuff. But still, keep in mind, their idea of failure is, well, this only sold several million copies.
Oh, is that it?
Well, they were expecting we're going to sell 10 million copies altogether, and it didn't do that. Plus, there was a lot of stuff going on in the late 70s where there was a decline in record sales and all that. But that's a whole other story. But anyway, so that was a big day for Kiss and music history in general, because nobody had ever done that before. And then, speaking of Kiss, 5 years later, they decided they wanted to still own that day. So September 18th, 1983, they appeared on television removing their makeup for the first time for the public, because they never would let anybody photograph them or interview them or anything like that without the makeup on. There had been some leaks, some tabloid leaks and stuff like that, but generally it was like this big mystery. Kiss went on MTV and did a big premiere of their new album, Lick It Up, and appeared without their makeup. And, you know, it goes without saying that a lot of people were immediately like, put it back on when they saw him and everything. I guess that's kind of mean, but yeah, it's true. But Kiss went on to be very successful for years and years without the makeup. Yeah. So, and Lick It Up's one of my favorite albums. I love it. So there were other albums that came out on this day. There were 2 debut albums that came out on this day that were for bands that became pretty big, pretty important in the hard rock scene. In 1982, September 18th, Twisted Sister put out their first album, Under the Blade. And in 1983, the same day that Kiss Lick It Up came out, Dokken put out their debut album, Breaking the Chains. Now, both of those bands, Twisted Sister and Dokken, went on to be multi-million selling artists. They're still, you know, kicking it
still out
today.
there,
You know, yeah, exactly. Well, Twisted Sister intermittently plays now and then. Dokken is still touring and everything. So even though this isn't necessarily hard rock, not in the metal sense, but this is more in the alternative kind of sense, a band that's inarguably, in my opinion, one of the godfathers of alternative rock, The Replacements from Minnesota. They released their legendary and influential album, Tim, on September 18th, 1985. I know you're not as familiar with The Replacements and stuff, but trust me when I say, like, that's a band that influenced, oh my God, it's so many. The Replacements influenced everybody from, like, Guns N' Roses through Nirvana, through Gin Blossoms, through, you know, all kinds of artists, man. Yeah, like The Replacements were very, very important in the history of rock and roll. But as is, you know, common with a lot of these kind of artists, they never had like super mainstream success. But their influence was huge, nonetheless. You know, they are a little bit of a musician's band in a way, you know. But anyway, but yeah, I'm a big fan of The Replacements, so I thought it'd be worth bringing that up. But yeah, that's all stuff that and there's other ones, like there's other albums, and
you could go on and on.
Yeah, there was other ones that came out. I mean, I think like 2 years later after that, I think Janet Jackson came out with Rhythm Nation, which was a huge album in the late 80s, man. That Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation was groundbreaking at the time. There was a time, man, where Janet was like right up there,
huge,
man.
yeah.
And that was like with Rhythm Nation and stuff. That was a big deal. Came out on September 18th. So yeah, there's just something about that day that they like to spring stuff on the public, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if people have done statistics and they choose that day because it's so impactful for whatever reason.
It could be there. Yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of marketing plan to that. Why they decide like that's a good time. You know, maybe it's like right before like the Christmas buying season and stuff is going to start, and
just after all the nice weather's gone, so people are inside more, so they want to listen to music more. There's got to be something
back to school.
Yep,
you know,
everybody's back in school.
Exactly, and you know, and that's the time they want music to listen to for doing their homework or when they're in college or whatever. Yeah, there's probably some kind of method
algorithm.
Method to the madness there. But anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting.
That is.
So I know there was another anniversary that came up just recently because you posted about it.
I did. It's a big anniversary for me because this is like my peak childhood.
Okay.
Biggest thing I remember, and it was the 34th anniversary of TGIF.
Oh boy.
Thank God it's Friday.
Yep. TGIF Fridays.
So that was always my favorite lineup. That's something I was always excited to get home for. I didn't care about the football game, the school football game. I didn't care about any of that stuff till I got to high school. But yeah, Family Matters, loved it. Step by Step, that was my jam. Boy Meets World, I fucking loved. Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Full House, The Dinosaurs. I mean, there's Perfect Strangers. There's so many different revolving shows that went through that, but I loved every incarnation of it.
Yeah, so. I wasn't, by the time, so this was on ABC, if I recall correctly. They started this in September of 1989.
Correct.
And the original TGIF went for a while. It was like so perfect 90s. Like there's nothing more 90s than ABC TGIF Friday.
I was thinking, I'm working on some training and everything for my work.
Right.
And I kept thinking Family Matters. I was like, oh, I'm totally going to pull that up. So it still affects me today. I love it.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. It was a very formative time for you because throughout the 90s, that would have been like roughly
I was perfect.
middle
Age.
school, roughly around middle school
yep.
through ending high school. Yeah, so for me, it didn't have as much impact because for me, I graduated high school in 1990, so I was not home on Friday nights very often,
Okay.
I was usually out. I was already gigging with bands or I was out hanging out. I was doing stuff. So I didn't spend a whole lot of Friday nights in to watch this stuff. I did see it sometimes. Family Matters was pretty funny, I have to admit. I liked Step by Step. Of course, I was a fan of Suzanne Summers.
Of course you are.
From Three's Company. I'm a huge Three's Company fan. So that goes out without saying. Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I haven't seen that in years, but I remember that being pretty funny.
Yes, I really enjoyed that.
And Boy Meets World. Okay, so that was Ben Savage and Danielle Fishel. Those were like the main. So it was
The two, yeah.
Corey Matthews and Topanga. Okay. Everybody remembers Topanga.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they were like perfectly my age.
Right.
It was in school. You got William Daniels as Mr. Feeney and
Right. I remember Mr. Feeney.
the cute older brother, Eric, and Ryder Strong's Eric. I loved him.
Yeah. Sean. Wasn't he
Sean,
the more
yes.
like trouble
He was.
maker one? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then you got Full House. That's
God.
quintessential 90s right there. And I loved
Full
it.
House. Oh. Yeah.
Dinosaurs was hilarious.
Oh, God. Dinosaurs drove me up the wall. Yeah.
I love Perfect Strangers too.
Perfect Strangers was funny. Yeah. Perfect Strangers was funny, although I got really tired of, with being named Larry. Everybody like, Cousin Larry. I'm like, oh, I've only heard that 5,000 fucking times. Like, okay. In any case, yeah, so that's got to make you feel old, keeping with that theme, huh?
Yeah, it makes me feel old. So they had a second run from 03 to 05. So I was in college at that point. I was like, it's actually coming back. I'm so excited. And then they had the third run from 18 to 19. That was super, super short.
Yeah, that really bombed.
Yeah, but I don't remember what was in that.
I don't know.
But
unfortunately nowadays people just don't watch TV
not like they used to.
like that.
Yeah.
It
It's
wasn't
all streaming now.
right. And it wasn't like a certain night event because back then, like you just said, it was like you had to make a choice.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we would set our butts in front of that TV and that's what we did.
Right.
Like
and,
Saturday morning cartoons.
right. Exactly. Yep. And that's all gone now.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
It's a little sad. But speaking of gone, something that was gone that might be coming back now.
Talking maybe this writer strike's going to be done with pretty soon.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're coming to some terms. So these late night shows will be coming back.
Yeah. They were talking about, they were saying, I think they specifically said late show with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and the Late Night with Seth Meyers show are making plans to return after the WGA and the AMPTP struck a tentative agreement just this past Sunday. These are probably going to be the first shows that they think are going to come back along with like the daytime talk shows and stuff.
Yeah, because the writers can get back in, producers can get back in and start making footage and everything. But they can't have guest stars.
Yeah.
Because
they can.
Celebrities cannot promote yet because their strike's still going on.
So they can still have guests.
They can.
But they can't promote, like, it can't be like somebody coming on.
Can't be a celebrity that's in SAG.
Right. Yeah.
Cannot promote anything.
Right. They could go on and maybe just shoot the shit and just talk and stuff. But
they just can't promote what's going on right now.
Yeah, they might be able to talk about some older past stuff, but nothing that's coming up or nothing they're involved with in the moment. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
And I see several people in our group actually are just like, I don't care. I didn't miss it.
Right.
I don't care about any of this. But what I'm missing, I haven't been like a late show watcher for quite a while. I was like way David Letterman back in college days and everything.
Right.
I love the top 10 and all that crap. But I am missing the promotion of the movies that have been coming out because there's been several good movies. Like this didn't get the hype it should have.
Right.
And it's bombing.
Yeah.
People are ripping it apart because the celebrities weren't able to go out and promote it. That's the piece I'm missing. So that's more of like the SAG portion, I suppose.
Right.
But it goes with the talk shows too.
Right.
Because that's the footage I see afterwards. I don't watch the actual show, but I watch the footage of it after.
Gotcha.
So I do personally miss it more than I expected to.
Yeah, I just want the whole thing to get resolved. Because I like we've talked about it already in past episodes. If you're interested in hearing more about all of the SAG-AFTRA stuff and what it's all about, and I still see a lot of people that are commenting, going, "Oh, these people are a bunch of spoiled rich babies," and I'm like, you're
guys.
missing the whole point of what a lot of this is about. It's about like making sure rights for things are covered properly, especially with AI and all the things that are going on now. There's a big shift coming in the entire entertainment industry, and that goes for not just TV and movies and stuff, but music's already been in that, but
even more now.
Even more. Yeah, I just saw our buddy Ken Mills was talking the other day about how there's a new thing saying that these things like Spotify and all that are going to start using AI to copy well-known podcasters' voices so that they can use it for like other things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Huh. Now, obviously, we are not well-known.
We don't have to worry about that anytime soon, if ever.
Nobody's going to be trying to steal our likenesses or our voices or anything like that. But they are talking about doing that and taking like their voices and stuff and being able to use that for other stuff. And that's kind of like what we're seeing. Just yesterday, I went on YouTube and I saw somebody took a version of Let It Be by the Beatles. It wasn't the Beatles version. They took somebody else's version of it, but they changed the vocal using AI to sound like Freddie Mercury was singing it.
Oh, weird.
And it was really, I hate to say cool, but it was cool. It was like, because it sounded like Freddie Mercury. It had a lot of the very particular inflections of him, and it had his tone of his voice and singing it. And it's, it's one of those things where if I had heard that, if I didn't know about AI and I wasn't all that aware that was done, and somebody just put that out there and was like, hey, check out this cover that Freddie did that never got put out of Let It Be.
You'd believe it.
I'd probably believe it because it was really spot on. And there's just a lot of rights issues with things like that. Plus, there's the fact that a lot of these AI programs can now write scripts. They can do all sorts of things that it's going to potentially put a lot of people out of work. And that's really tricky and dangerous. And it needs to get figured out. I know there's some people that are like, oh, everybody's freaking out too much. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Well, just like downloading and all that kind of stuff, it's a good thing as long as everything is done right from the get-go, which with like, say, MP3s and downloading and
it was not
handled good from the get-go. Record companies didn't take it seriously, and it went hog wild, and it's still an issue now. So I'm all for them doing the strike and getting everything figured out. But
yes, I agree. We did a whole thing on it, like our second Squadcast. So if you want to hear the whole spiel,
we got
go check it out there.
We got more into it there, but it is a good sign that it looks like we're going to start getting some things back here, back on track, because these people got to work too. And most of the people that work on these shows, you may not care about Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert personally.
But it's the writers.
There's hundreds of people that are employed to work on those shows, and they can't work.
Right, exactly.
So they got a right to work.
Not just the celebrities, it's everybody.
Right, exactly. But somebody else is also returning to the air.
Yes, I never thought we'd see this.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to explain this away. What are we talking about?
Doctor Who, David Tennant is coming back.
The 10th Doctor.
60th anniversary special.
Well, there's technically 3 specials.
Yes. He'll be back there for 3. He's going to be back with Miss Donna Noble.
Played by Catherine Tate. Yeah.
I know.
So it's going to be Dr.
How are they going to
explain
this?
Yeah.
Because she was going to die if she ever knew his information.
Well, that's part of what, if you watch the new trailer, spoilers here, folks, if you're like, I don't want to know, then fast forward or walk away or something.
I have not heard any of this.
In the trailer, they address that.
Do they?
He brings up about how, like, I had to wipe her memory, otherwise she was going to die. But now from what I gather, this is getting into something where it's like, you can't change fate. And it was Donna's fate to
die?
be, well,
Or
maybe
to
die.
be.
Maybe die, but it was her fate. Like, we can't, the doctor keeps trying to change it and erase it and be like, well, blah, 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 she doesn't need to remember and we'll just let her be a normal person. And there's even scenes, like I saw there was one scene in the trailer where Donna's talking, I think, to her mother or somebody, and she's like, I just can't shake the feeling that there's like a whole part of me that's missing.
Okay.
She's like, it's like I feel like I'm leading this incomplete life because there's like something that I've forgotten, or like the doctor can suppress it, but he can't remove it.
Gotcha. So it was like always her fate to be his companion.
Yeah,
And she needs that part of her life, even if it risks her death.
Even it means that she's got to die, which happens. I mean, It's not the last time or the first time that one of the companions has died. I mean, it's not a glamorous position to be in because there's a lot of risk there. Mm-hmm. But so they're bringing back Tennant as the 10th Doctor. But it's like this weird intermittent thing because what it's going to do is at the end of it, it's supposed to introduce the 15th Doctor. I know he's a really respected, well-liked actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see people got really good reviews whenever that was announced.
Yeah. Not that Jodie Whittaker wasn't a really good actor. She was. Unfortunately, Jodie, I think, suffered from a lot of bad writing choices and things that went on there.
That's always a Doctor Who thing.
Yeah, it sure is. But anyway, they're planning on using this as a means to introduce the 15th Doctor. There's going to be 3 specials that are scheduled to air in November, and the first is called The Star Beast, then Wild Blue Yonder, and then The Giggle. Whatever that is. I don't know.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I have so much catching up to do on this.
Oh, I know. I haven't even watched most of the Jodie Whittaker stuff.
I haven't watched any of it. I gave up on Capaldi.
Yeah, and I like Capaldi. You need to go back and give that a chance again.
As soon as he started playing the guitar and using sunglasses as a sonic screwdriver, I tapped out.
I know. And that, again, that's where a lot of the writing problems
came in.
Really came in. I feel like some of that even came in back when Matt Smith was getting to the end of his tenure. Again, that's a whole other episode we can do where we're going to talk about Doctor Who. But yeah, we're very excited either way that we're going to get to see Dr. Donna again. Because it's tough to pick a favorite season, but that might be my favorite season of Doctor Who is the one with
Donna?
with him and Donna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's so many good episodes in that season. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'll go on forever about it. So, another show that's coming back finally, because it feels like freaking forever.
It does, but it hasn't been that long, really.
Well, 2.5 years.
But there's been other Marvel things.
So what? A lot of them, unfortunately, as we've kind of talked a little bit about before, just have not that they were bad, but Marvel has just jumped around too much.
Yes, I concur. They haven't pulled these things together yet.
No, I'm really hoping they do now with this. And what are we talking about?
LOKI Season 2 is coming out. This has been my favorite Marvel offshoot.
Yeah, the one of the Disney
TV
Plus
shows.
series.
Yeah.
We reviewed every episode of it, so you can go back and check those out if you were interested. We loved LOKI Season 1.
Yes.
There was so much good stuff. We had Sophie, we had the Gator Loki, we had the classic Loki, we had all that. And
Owen Wilson, I love that dude.
Yes, Owen Wilson is great in it with his jet ski and all that. And it introduced the new big villain for the MCU, which is Kang. They didn't really introduce him that well. He came in at the
very
last minute,
and
then they covered him. He was the main thing in Ant-Man Quantumania.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, and you get more explanation of sorts about him and everything, but it's still not really tying it together for people. And the post-credit scene for Quantumania ties in with this, because in the post-credit scene, again, spoilers everybody, the post-credit scene shows Loki and Owen Wilson's characters back in 1898 seeing an early version of Kang at some kind of like vaudeville show type thing.
Interesting.
And, and they're like hunting him down. They're trying to find more about it. And when you watch this trailer, you see some of that. You see like stuff referencing that and everything. So so that at least is going to tie together in some way. But anyway, so when is this coming out?
October 5th. We don't have to wait long at all.
No.
Next couple weeks.
Wow. So just when we finish Ahsoka,
it starts.
Like 2 days later, it starts with Loki.
That's exciting.
Oh, man. We're going to be busy.
We are. Good thing we're not overlapping.
No. Oh, thank goodness it doesn't overlap.
We would never sleep.
Yeah, that would just be too much. But yeah, are you all out there excited about this? Oh, because the other cool thing that they're going to do is that speaking of Ahsoka, is they're going to start airing it at a more prime time. You remember it used to be it would come out at like midnight or 2 a.m. or something. Now they're doing it where the episode's going to come out on October 5th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So here in Chicago, it'll be 8 p.m. Perfect. So I think last little thing to talk about, and this is just kind of a silly thing, but last thing to talk about here in the What's Shakin' Bacon segment is something that goes along with something we talked about last week. Recently, we were talking about fan theories. So it's like fan theories, not about stuff that's coming up, but about older things. Like we talked about.
This is the theme of this episode.
Yeah, everything is just old. Yeah, everything old is new and still old again. But we talked before about how there was fan theories going around that Breakfast Club was actually all something that was a figment of Allison's imagination, that she was actually all by herself and all those other characters weren't there. And that was interesting. And then we talked about
Grease.
The fan theory about Grease, that Sandy, that the movie was all kind of in her head because she had drowned and all this stuff. And but another one that combines morbid with cheery and happy. And this one was really, really weird. It's a theory that Mary Poppins and Pennywise the Clown from Stephen King's It are creatures of the same species. Okay. So they list here a bunch of things, and I'd like to get your take on it, and you at home as you're listening, tell me what you think of this. So each character returns every 20-something years. So Pennywise comes back every 27 years, and Mary Poppins comes back every 25 to regenerate energy from a new group of children, because they both interact with children in very different ways. And they also have a tendency to return to those same children that they met on their last visit. Like Pennywise returned to the Losers Club in Derry, Maine. Mary Poppins returns to the Bankses over there in jolly old England. So Mary Poppins manages to also maintain energy for 25 years despite interacting with less children than Pennywise requires for 27 years. But because she gets her energy from the children's joy, whereas Pennywise relies on their fear.
Like Monsters, Inc.
Exactly.
Where they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, because in Monsters, Inc., initially they think they have to scare the kids, but then they find out that they get more energy out of the laughter of children. Yeah, that's funny.
Mary Poppins is onto something here.
Yeah, maybe she founded Monsters, Inc.
They could all be the same species.
Could be.
Maybe it's not they're the same species. It's all from the same universe.
Could be. So upon each of their returns, Mary Poppins and It both know a child named Georgie and draw him away from their siblings with a paper toy. And Mary Poppins with Mary Poppins, it's a kite, and Pennywise, it's a boat.
Right.
It's the boat with the paraffin. Each one has a similar set of powers where they can take advantage of what's in children's minds. Mary Poppins uses their imagination, in like positive ways, whereas Pennywise, again, focuses on their fears. So Mary Poppins also famously has a living reflection that can function separately from her. Do you remember that from Mary Poppins?
No.
That she can kind of almost like multiply in a sense.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. And Pennywise, he can do the same thing. We saw that in chapter 2. Yeah, so there's another parallel. And then in both stories, the parents are completely oblivious.
Well, that's not unusual.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But the Losers Club in It, they forget their experiences as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that it just like fades away.
Right.
They can't control it. It just fades away until Pennywise returns. That's not exactly the same thing. The Banks's children, they don't forget Mary Poppins existed, but they forget about all the magical stuff. Like they forget about all that. They just remember like, oh yeah, didn't we used to have this?
She's just our nanny.
This nanny named Mary Poppins, and she's just kind of a vague memory. So it's still pretty similar there. Each one of them, well, this is a little bit of a stretch. Each one has a love for performing, for singing and dancing and stuff. That's a good point because Pennywise, his full name is Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
Okay.
Okay.
So he dances and she sings and dances.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, all right. I'm with it here. I can see the connection. Pennywise is heavily associated with the song Oranges and Lemons, which is a song about old London where Mary Poppins lives.
Okay.
So it shows that Pennywise has an awareness that another member of his species is out there and he knows exactly who they are. So he knows... Because, I mean, that could be the thing is, like, maybe there's, like, two different kinds of... Not all of the species is, like, bad, like Pennywise. Just like human species. Like,
right.
Maybe
we got bad eggs, we got good eggs.
Right. Maybe Mary Poppins is, like, a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, lastly, at the end of Mary Poppins, the characters all grab balloons and they float into the air. And we all know about Pennywise and the floating balloons, Georgie. Don't you want to come down here, Georgie? I've got balloons for you. And they all float.
Wow.
Sorry.
I'm going to have nightmares.
Yeah. Who knew you were co-hosting a show with Pennywise the
clown.
Freaking clown?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, just like the other, like the Breakfast Club and the Grease. It's all fantasy.
Not legit, but
it's interesting.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
It's funny that people thought of that and drew those parallels to one another.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't...
That's hilarious.
I don't have that kind of time to be able to come up with these things.
Right?
So, I don't know. But in any case, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. It was worth at least talking about.
Yeah, bringing it up.
All right, so I think that's it for the whole What's Shakin' Bacon segment. Let's get into some real talk stuff here. We've got our Squad Talk segment coming up. Before we get into that, we have to throw it over very briefly here to our friends, our sponsors, the good old Prescribed Films podcast network, which we are a part of, very happily a part of. There's all sorts of great shows that take part in that whole network, and let's have them tell you about it. Okay.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
And with that little jingle, that indicates that it is time for some real old squad talk.
Coming from something very old.
Oh, well, thanks. Talking about me?
I wasn't, but since you brought it up, I guess.
Boy, oh boy. No, are you referring to the topic that we're going to get into here?
I was. You don't have to be so defensive about it.
Oh, well, you take any chance you get, you take shots at me. We know this, so.
This is true.
You were throwing weird, goopy, sticky stuff at me earlier and getting it. I don't know. Still don't know what that was. It looked like gum.
It did look like gum. Yeah. That's what I thought it was at first. I was like, why are you putting gum under there? What are you, 12?
I didn't put anything. Maybe it was stuck to my shoe or something. I don't know. But anyway, in this segment, we like to talk about geeky stuff that's actually happening in real life. It's not fantasy. These are all things that are in the news. And the one thing that's been in the news recently has been regarding the asteroid Bennu.
Bennu Minute?
It's Minute. Oh, gosh. Wow. Oh, yeah, you're a real riot. Yeah, no, they've been talking about this asteroid because they've been following this asteroid for a while now. They sent out NASA, by they I mean NASA, sent out the OSIRIS-REx, which is an asteroid sampling satellite of sorts. It's a thing that's out there on a mission that'll help scientists better understand not only how these things are made, how these asteroids are created, what they consist of, but also how we can protect humankind if these asteroids become a threat to us.
Which this one sounds like it definitely could.
Yeah.
In the near future.
Yeah. So here's the thing, backing it up for a second. The reason that they want to back it up, the reason they want to study this thing more closely is because while we've had asteroids come and hit the Earth plenty of times, they still do. And we're able to, in some cases, get our hands on them and check them out. The problem is once they've gone through our atmosphere and they've collided with the Earth and all that, they're changed.
They're contaminated.
Yeah, they're considered contaminated. They're not pure like they are when they're just out there in space. And we've never been able to examine any of this stuff in its purest form like that. And so there's a lot that we can glean from an asteroid by doing this. We can find out whether it had any kind of life of any sort attached to it, like water or something like that. We can also find out if there's like certain minerals and things that maybe we're not that familiar with here on Earth, but they might exist out there in space.
Right.
There's a lot to gather from that. Just this past weekend, I think it was on the 24th, the mission ended and OSIRIS-REx came back.
Gave us a little capsule of samples.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they're already like ready to start examining it, and it's being dispersed to different scientists all throughout the world. I even saw a thing that they were talking about. They're going to take a certain amount of it and just put it away and like not mess with it.
Okay. Just extra samples?
Well, yeah.
If they ever need it, or?
Well, if they ever need it, but like specifically because their point is that they're acknowledging the fact that now in 2023, our technology has only come so far.
Right.
So 100 years from now, or even 50 years from now, something like that, we may have even better technology to be able to examine this stuff.
Yeah, kind of like they do with forensic science.
Right.
They take all these samples and put it away because one day we're going to catch up to what we need to sample that.
Right, exactly. So that's what they're doing with this. So that's pretty exciting, you know. But the other thing that's exciting about this that they've discovered through analyzing this and checking out this asteroid is that no other asteroid that we've known of lately has a higher known probability of hitting the Earth in the near future.
It's a big ass asteroid too, isn't it?
Yeah. So, okay, here's a little backstory about Bennu for those at home that if I'm sure for a lot of you probably don't know that much about this. So Bennu was discovered by us in 1999. It's a rare B-type asteroid that is rich in carbon material, believed to contain chemical compounds from the early epochs of the solar system.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's crazy.
Really ancient, like billions of years old stuff that has not been touched. And again, things that probably we may not even have anymore on the Earth here. So
we have you.
Oh, wow. That I'm billions of years old. You know, I swear to God, I need to find that sticky gum and just throw it right back at you.
Get my hair.
Yeah, I'll put gum in your hair like we're in third grade again, right? Anyway, on top of all that, its orbit makes the 1,614 foot wide Bennu the most dangerous known asteroid in the solar system. It's large enough to cause massive destruction if it hit the Earth. It would punch a crater several miles wide into the planet's surface, which would also it would cause earthquakes, and there would be a shock wave that would completely go through our entire atmosphere. They said it would damage buildings hundreds of miles away.
So this is like dinosaur asteroid epic changing the world.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. That's what I was thinking, but they didn't really get into that, saying
Okay.
like this would be a life-ending event for our planet. But it doesn't sound good. I think maybe they don't know for certain. That's part
How
of what they're
could
trying
they?
to find out. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Go ask the dinosaurs,
Right.
and they'll just go, not the mama, and that's it. Getting back on that again. Oof. Well, so anyway, the scientists are saying that there is good news, and that's that the chances of Bennu actually hitting our planet anytime soon are still slim. So with models of Bennu and Earth's orbital trajectories put together, they show that the paths of both might intersect around September 2182. So that's just what
Not terribly far away.
no, 150 years or so from now, 160 years. They probably won't, is what they're saying. They said the impact probability in that year is only 1 in 2,700. Now, here's my thing. Here's my first little interjection about it. To go, well, it's only 1 in 2,700.
It doesn't seem
That's
terribly great.
No, I was just going to say, do those odds seem like, I mean, if you told me it was like 1 in 2 million, I'd be like,
Like, okay, that's a little better.
or
But 1 in 2,700?
yeah, 1 in 200,000. I'm like, okay, but 1 in 2,700, there's a lot of possibility
Kind of
there.
low.
Right. And just since they put that out, by the way, I want to add in that I just read yesterday that they've already revised that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because just this week, scientists published an updated estimate related to the trajectory, and they were saying that Bennu's estimated chance of hitting Earth prior to the year 2300 is now 1 in 1,750.
Wow. It's already cut in half almost.
It's already like getting way cut down. So that's, that's greater than previous, which was supposed to be 2,700. Now it's 1,750. But they're saying, well, that's still pretty low. Folks, is it just us, or does that just not seem quite low enough for
That's
you?
not low enough for me, no.
The one thing that they're saying, and this is part of why they're really pushing this whole project, is the engineers and the scientists are saying, look, that still gives us plenty of time to figure out how to deal with Bennu. So the data that they're collecting right now from it's going to play a key role in a potential like deflection mission.
We're going Armageddon on it.
Yeah, exactly. They need to just freeze Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis now. And then maybe by the time they unfreeze Bruce, we can make him better because he's not doing well
Right,
lately.
exactly. That's
So
not-
they
not
need
going
to.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we need to save Bruce Willis. Yeah. When OSIRIS-REx touched down on Bennu and took its first sample in October of 2020, the asteroid responded in a way that they didn't expect. So right off the bat, there was something unusual about it, and the gravel, the mass of it retreated when they went to scoop it. It moved almost like water.
Shut up.
Seriously. Yeah, they said the massive gravel inside the crater, it nearly swallowed the spacecraft. Because they were expecting it to just be like hard, like landing on a rock. And the spacecraft, instead, it was almost more like
quicksand?
Like quicksand, yes. That it started to like sink into it. That just showed all the scientists that the surface layer has a surprisingly low density. And the spacecraft, as a result, sank 20 inches into the surface of Bennu before they ended up using the thrusters to get it back out. This is all like so Star Trek, I'm telling you right now. But anyway...
Yeah.
So then doing that, when they did the back-away thrusters, this maneuver triggered another unexpected response. The images that were being sent back from OSIRIS-REx's onboard cameras showed that there was a massive cloud of gravel and sand that rose into space.
Like it was coming for the craft? Or?
Well, it was like breaking up, and it was kind of like it just said it was a massive cloud of gravel and sand that rose into space, threatening the retreating spacecraft.
Is it Klingon? What is this?
I don't know. So anyway, right now the scientists are comparing measurements from Bennu using the data they collected. So they did we talked about this back in an old Squadcast.
Old days.
When we had Vito, and we were talking about how they were NASA was trying that deflection experiment. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so NASA back a while back, they did a deflection experiment where they wanted to see if they could successfully Armageddon that shit. It's all fine for us to sit there and go, oh yeah, well, we'll just send up things and we'll deflect an asteroid if it comes our way. Well, but if we've never actually tried it.
It's not as easy as you think it might be.
Right.
Okay.
So they did a deflection experiment called DART, and it successfully altered the orbit of the asteroid moon Dimorphos around its parent space rock Didymus. You don't remember talking about this?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we had a whole conversation about it. I don't remember which episode it was, but yeah, this was back in 2022. So OSIRIS-REx did an investigation of Bennu from its orbit, and it revealed that the rocks towering on the asteroid's surface are made of a very porous, sponge-like material.
Okay.
So these are not like,
Kind of
again,
like lava rock?
yeah, well, yeah, we think of asteroids as being these really hard rocks, but this is something else. Like this is, yeah, it's got a completely different kind of density and makeup, which is interesting because now this is going to make scientists have to think very differently about how to handle these kind of things.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's like barely being held together.
Right.
Almost. So
Well,
if you blow it apart, what's that going to do? Make us like 8,000 more?
exactly. And that's what they're saying. They're saying that the porosity or the porousness of Bennu might be protecting it from impacts from other asteroids or whatever.
Right.
So as a result, Bennu doesn't have that many craters on its surface as they had expected. And so there's no way for them to even know, like, well, how many times has this collided with other asteroids? Because they would normally be able to determine that for how many craters and dents and things it has. But this is so different, they can't tell. So all the strange qualities of whatever this is that makes up Bennu could also affect how the rock would respond, not only in our potential attempt to nudge it away from colliding with Earth, but how it's going to respond if
Something
it hits
hits it.
Earth.
Or if something hits it.
Right. We don't know. Exactly. This is like a whole new kind of thing to deal with.
Interesting.
So anyway, right now, the thing is that researchers are estimating that September 24th, 2182 would be when this would potentially
Or
hit Earth.
1,700
Yeah. It's got an
odds. to hit
yeah.
us.
Well, when you break it down to percentages, they're saying there's an impact probability of 0.037%. So it's like less than 0.1%, you know? So that is pretty low, but
I still don't like it.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, none of us are going to be around,
Still don't like it.
but it's still not good. I mean, we do have to care about the future. There's a doctor, and he's considered the executive director of the Asteroid Institute. I didn't know that was a thing. Asteroid Institute director, Dr. Ed Liu, he said that Bennu isn't really a threat to Earth precisely because of our careful tracking of it. He feels that the fact that we've been tracking it is beneficial, and he's really not worried about this. But just to leave this on a really up note, and I'm being completely sarcastic by saying that, this Dr. Liu says, no, I'm not worried about Bennu. What I'm worried about are all the asteroids out there that are not on our radar.
Maybe moving extremely fast and just appear out of nowhere.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could.
You know, we like to think that we're on top of everything like that, but just like there's viruses
What?
that pop up out of nowhere that we didn't expect, and, you know, we're always looking for that stuff, and then
You
suddenly...
never know. Our moon can fall out of orbit and crash into us.
Yeah, especially if Ming the Merciless gets pissed off or bored.
Right?
If he goes, Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything do you have for me today? And he starts making the moon go to crash into Earth. And then we got to get into a capsule with Hans Zarkov and go up there and hang out with Hawkmen and little weird painted up small people with swords and all. Like, yeah, dude, I will rock the fuck out of a Hawkman rocket cycle, though. Get me a Hawkman rocket cycle. All it is basically a jet ski that flies through space.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally,
You're there for that. Okay.
I already have the Flash Gordon logo shirt to wear. Like stupid ass Flash who just wears a shirt with his own name on it through the whole movie. But yeah, that's so Lou said. He said most of the asteroids in our solar system that could do great damage should they hit the Earth are untracked. Most of them are untracked.
He's part of the Asteroid Institute. Get on it.
Well, he's trying, but at least he's being
down on it.
get down on it, asteroids. Get down on it, blow them up. Get down on it. They're spongy now. It's like, yeah. So, but he said those asteroids that are large enough to destroy a city, should they hit, are 99% are untracked. We have zero data on them. There you go.
Somebody's slacking on his job.
Sweet dreams, everybody. Go to bed, rest easy, knowing that tonight, that it's like, yeah, we only know about maybe 1% of the dangerous asteroids out there.
Fabulous.
The other 99, who knows? As Doctor Who would say, who knows?
Oh, boy.
All right. I gotta get. I'm in Doctor Who mode now after what we were talking about.
All right. Speaking of, let's go do some fun things.
Yeah,
now.
let's
was
get
kinda
away
heavy.
from spongy rocks destroying our world, and let's get into some fun stuff. So we like to talk about things that get shared in the group that aren't news articles, but are just like polls or fun memes and stuff like that. And we have some more that you guys shared. Starting out, we have our pal Javier. He shared another choose meme. He's good for coming up with these choose
Yeah, I don't know where he
memes.
finds these things. It's awesome.
Yeah, but he found one, and it was, which character pictured is the best hero? Now, obviously, you're listening at home, so you cannot see
Shall
the...
explain.
Yeah, so we're going to go through, and what are the choices that they offered? These are some interesting choices.
Yeah, these are all over the place. So there's Quail Man, also known as Doug.
Yeah, the cartoon.
The cartoon Doug. Mighty Mouse, Captain Planet, Space Ghost, Thunder the Barbarian, and Birdman.
Yeah, attorney at law. I don't think that's the Birdman they're referring. It's the same Birdman, but they're talking about old Birdman.
Such low rates.
That's
Not that one
Eagle
either.
Man.
Oh, Eagle Man.
I
He's
choose-
a bird.
I've got something for you. Wow. People at home are probably like, what are they talking about? If you haven't seen the Eagle Man insurance commercials, oh, you're missing out. Those are classics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are interesting choices, which I'm cool with because I get
Yeah, these
tired
are
of
different.
the typical Superman and Batman and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. Like, these are different choices. So, Megan,
Yes.
I'm throwing it in your court here. What would your choice be for the best hero of the bunch?
So honestly, I only know a couple of these.
Right?
And I had to go with Mighty Mouse. It's one I grew up with.
Yeah.
It was part of my brother's nickname growing up.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Mighty Mouse.
But
huh?
it was my aunt. He's going to kill me.
Oh, boy.
My Aunt Bev gave him the name Mighty Might.
Mighty Might.
F
Okay.
of Mighty Mouse. So
Oh, okay. So just more.
he hated it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he
But
did.
I love some Mighty Mouse.
Yeah. Here I come to save the day. Yeah, I remember Mighty Mouse. I used to watch him in the mornings.
What about you?
Oh, man. Well, okay, just going through Quail Man, Doug. I'm not real familiar with Doug. That wasn't a show that I grew up watching or anything like that. So he's kind of disqualified. Mighty Mouse is great. Captain Planet, I feel like that's like a cool... I like the concept of Captain Planet and what he stands for and everything, but he was a little after my time.
Okay.
That would have been more your childhood, Captain Planet, because that was like the late 80s.
Yeah, and I barely remember him.
Oh, wow. Okay. Space Ghost, again, I watched Space Ghost when I was a kid, but my association with Space Ghost is mostly the latter Space Ghost with him and Brack and stuff, like on Cartoon Network, with when they turned Space Ghost into like a goofy talk show kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like it made it like an adult comedy thing. And then they did the same thing kind of later with Birdman, with was it Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, and they made it like a adult comedy thing on Cartoon Network. And again, that was funny. I don't really remember too much about Birdman from when I was a kid, although I know I saw it. The one that I do remember from being a kid, and this show didn't last very long. I loved this show when it came out, was Thundar the Barbarian. I was the perfect age because I was like 8 going on 9.
Oh, yeah. This was all for
And
you.
I loved anything barbarian-ish, I loved Conan comics, and I loved very shortly thereafter, and that's kind of what I think sort of buried Thundar, was He-Man came along.
He looks just like He-Man.
Well, Thundar was first.
Yeah.
Thundar technically came
He-Man
first.
stole it.
Kind of, yeah. I think the problem was that everybody was trying to do the same concept at the same time. It's just like the whole like Mad Max syndrome thing, where like there was a period there in the early mid 80s
Dystopian.
where everything became dystopian future, and it was all people in like leather and masks and riding dune buggies and
Just like the vampire stuff.
Right.
It's all,
Right.
They got to inundate us with it.
Right. But Thundar the Barbarian, that's going to be my choice just because that's the one I'm the most nostalgic for. Okay. And with his sidekick, Ookla the Mock. I've known a couple people that resembled Ookla the Mock, and me and Nick always joke about that.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's like, check out Ookla the Mock over there. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna be my choice, Thundar the Barbarian.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was badass. Now this meme, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
So this was a you can only keep 3, and these are again classic cartoons from like the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yes.
And wow. All right, you want me to read the choices?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the choices, you can only keep 3 of these, folks, so pay attention and think about this. Choices are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtle and a half shell.
Turtle power. Yeah. So that's your first choice. Super Friends, talked about them in the last episode. Mm-hmm. The Jetsons, Thundercats, DuckTales, Snorks, Voltron, Care Bears, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Ghostbusters, Inspector Gadget, Transformers, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Pound Puppies, Mask, Garfield and Friends, Heathcliff, G.I. Joe, and last but not least, the Flintstones. Yeah, I feel like these are like, they could have cut
and
this.
the Smurfs are hiding down there too.
And then the Smurfs. I almost forgot the Smurfs. Oh my God, what a list. That's like too many, even though I know you're supposed to pick 3, but that's like how many choices is that? 20?
Yeah,
20
there,
choices. Yeah. You're giving me 20 choices? I can only keep 3? That's some bullshit.
Yeah, Javier said in the group, I can't be forced to erase my childhood.
Yeah, I agree with you, Javier.
Yeah,
but
this is tough.
And we had a bunch of, we had a bunch of people throw out their choices. So before we pick ours, Jess said
Garfield, DuckTales, Care Bears. Honorable mention goes to Inspector Gadget.
Yep.
Those are excellent choices.
Yep.
Angie says, oh man, many on this list I want to keep. But she chose Inspector Gadget, the Jetsons, the Smurfs.
Okay.
Will be her 3.
That's solid.
Marco, Super Friends, the Jetson, and DuckTales. Luke said the Thundercats, Voltron, and Heathcliff.
Okay.
And David said Super Friends, He-Man, and Thundercats.
So, I mean, that just goes to show, like, those are all over the place.
Yes.
It's really tough.
Oh, wait, there's some more comments, I think.
Oh, gosh, are there more? Oh, yeah, Eric got some in. He said Thundercats,
DuckTales, and the Smurfs.
Yep.
Adam said G.I. Joe, Inspector Gadget, and Super Friends.
Yep.
Tammy, Jetsons, Inspector Gadget, and Flintstones. John Kane says He-Man, Thundercats, and Mask if he was 10 years old. My current self would say the Flintstones, Jetsons, and Inspector Gadget.
Well, that's an interesting take on it, John. That's my cousin John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, John Forst. And he that's an interesting take on it. So you know what? Let's have fun with this.
Okay.
Let's do it if borrowing not only from John, this is very Gen X gamer thing to do. What's your 10-year-old self going to say? So let's have fun with this and we'll do it. And you folks at home that are listening, you can do it this way too. You can only keep 3, but you can make 2 different batches. What would your 10-year-old version say? And what would your current version say? Because I know for me, that's going to make it very different.
It is a little different.
Yeah. So, do you want to try and do this? First, let's start. We'll each do our 10-year-old version
10-year-old?
first.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm trying to picture what I would have gone to when I was 10.
Okay.
What was I most excited to see? So I would definitely go the Smurfs.
Okay.
Love myself some Smurfs.
Yeah.
I love the Jetsons.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to choose. Maybe the Flintstones.
Okay. So the Jetsons, the Flintstones, and the Smurfs.
Yeah. I think those are going to be my 3 10-year-old me.
Okay.
What about you?
So my 10-year-old me, it'll make it a little easier for me too, because I'm going to get real technical about it and be like, well, what was out when I was 10 years old?
Oh,
because some of these weren't out when I was still, like Ghostbusters didn't come out until after I was older. Yeah. What were you going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say, geez, you're so touchy tonight.
Because you had a look on your face like you were going to totally use this as an opportunity to dig at me
I was just
going to
say I am not well versed enough as you are to know when these actually came out.
And you know why I'm so well versed in it?
Because you're old.
Exactly.
Pick your 3.
Okay, so I think my 3 when I was 10 years old, so that would have been 83. So it would have been G.I. Joe. It would have been, I would say, Super Friends and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Okay.
That would have been my 3 choices. So now as an adult, the ones that I would want to have around that I would be able to watch more of or relate more to, I think would be a little bit different. As an adult, I would stick with Super Friends.
Okay.
And I would choose Garfield and Friends because the humor I get more now as an adult.
Okay.
And
Yes.
I you know what I mean?
Some of it went over our heads as a kid.
Yeah, I can appreciate Garfield's humor so much better now. So yeah, okay, and on my third, oh man, that's a tough one. Third one is probably going to be a toss-up between the Flintstones and the Smurfs.
Oh, really? I did not see that coming.
Yeah. Again, because here's the thing. So G.I. Joe, I loved the first G.I. Joe series that came out in 1983. They did a mini series that I could do a whole episode about someday that I was so excited about, and I still think it's great. However, all the G.I. Joe that came out after that, especially as that show continued on, and some of that was probably to do with my age and everything, but it just got kind of sillier. And a lot of the characters that I really loved were the early G.I. Joe characters, and they phased them out over time. And it got into these later characters and Cobra La and the Dreadnoks and all them. I didn't care about any of that.
Okay.
So that's why I'm not sticking with G.I. Joe. And He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I still, you know I'm a big He-Man fan.
You are.
I love He-Man, but I've tried watching that show now as an adult, and I'm like, oh boy.
Does it not stand up?
It's pretty goofy, to say the least. Flintstones was definitely geared a little bit more towards adults. I'm probably going to go with Flintstones, and then my honorable mention would be Smurfs, because I love the Smurfs. Gargamel cracks me up, that whole thing.
His cat.
So that's going to be my thing. Flintstones, Super Friends, and Garfield. Super Friends always has to be in there because I talked about it too much in the last episode.
You always talk about it.
I don't need to talk about it now. I just will always love Super Friends.
Okay.
So what's your modern you can keep 3 now?
My modern keep 3 are the ones I binge watch daily, pretty much still right now.
Yep.
And that would be DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers,
Oh, yes, of course.
and Garfield and Friends.
Okay.
Yep. I've binge watched all of them very recently, like this week.
Nice.
So that was my easy one.
I like every cartoon on this list.
Yeah, there's not one I don't
even
like.
the stupid ass Snorks. Even the stupid. Did anybody pick the Snorks? I bet somebody picked the Snorks. Somebody had to have picked Snorks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, even the Snorks. Snorks are fine. But it's just when the Snorks came out, I was like, and they aired it right after the Smurfs. I was like, okay, this is a little bit too
on the nose here.
On the nose here. Like, really? Come on. Get a little bit more creative here with this Smurfs, Snorks. It's like, well, they're like Smurfs, but they're underwater or whatever. It's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, good thing they didn't have My Little Pony.
Oh.
They didn't have my Beetlejuice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of things they could have got into. Yeah. Thank goodness they didn't get into things like Batman the Animated Series later. Like, oh, yeah. So this was hard enough as it was. But I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good with those choices. You put a meme into the group.
I did. It's you can only pick one of these options.
Okay.
And so you could either take a vacation with the Griswolds.
From National Lampoon's Vacation. Okay.
Bust some ghosts with the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, obviously
we've done that in a spoof.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I should share that to the group again because it's getting about that time of year. So
enjoy a day off with Ferris Bueller.
Yep. Okay. Bueller.
Go on an excellent adventure with Bill and Ted.
Okay.
Travel time. Explore the labyrinth of the Goblin King with some Jareth.
Yeah, from Labyrinth.
And his bulge.
Oh boy.
Or you could search for treasure with the Goonies.
Yeah.
This is another hard one. There's a lot of good options in here.
Absolutely. We got people that responded to it.
Yes. So Gina says the Goonies. My brother thinks he's got mine, so we'll go back to that.
Yeah.
Michael says, I'm staying home. They all sound exhausting.
Fair enough. Showing our
Fair
age,
enough.
right?
Yep, fair enough.
Rich said he's torn.
Yeah, he's torn. He can't make a decision.
Matthew says, Polito says he chose Ghostbusters. He ain't afraid of no ghost.
And Denise says she's taking a day off with Ferris.
Yeah. So your well here. Okay, first of all, let's address the fact that your brother said he could guess, and he assumed it would be Labyrinth.
He did assume that. So, but it's not a dead giveaway.
Okay, why?
I mean, the Labyrinth and Jareth and stuff like that, that's really cool. But it's also freaking terrifying.
Okay, fair enough.
I was like, I don't know.
So what's your other option then? Like what obviously that is a potential option because you're such a Labyrinth fan.
Yes. Busting some ghosts with the Ghostbusters, that could be a lot of fun. There's some cool guys to hang out with, but that's kind of terrifying too.
Yeah.
Time travel could be kind of cool.
Bill and Ted, yeah. Okay.
Then we have the Griswolds. You never know what to expect out of that. Talk about driving around with some dead bodies and stuff. But
that's, yeah.
But, and then you got treasure hunting with the Goonies. And you know how I am with treasure hunts.
Can I tell you honestly, can I pick for you?
Okay, what you gonna
What
pick?
I think? I think out of all of these, realistically, the ones that would probably be the most likely for you would be, aside from the Labyrinth one,
Okay.
The Excellent Adventure with Bill and Ted.
Okay.
Getting to go and check out all those different times in history and meeting Joan of Arc and Napoleon and, Socrates and going through all different parts of history. It would either be that or, I mean, let's face it, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but just in an honest, earnest way. You are a Goonie.
I am a Goonie.
You are such a Goonie. Like, you are so one of those, like, there's a treasure map and we got to go through and we got to solve these puzzles and blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, the bridge is collapsing and there's an octopus, but then there's Captain Chunk and Sloth and we're going to hang out with them. And then a big boat goes out, a big pirate ship goes out. And then we got gold doubloons and all this kind of stuff. And the Goonies is the one you would
That
go
is
with.
my choice.
That is your choice.
I can't turn down a good treasure hunt.
Yeah.
It's all my favorite kind of movies. Yep, I couldn't turn that down.
Right.
So of all the great choices, I have to go Goonies. I got to go do my treasure hunt.
Okay.
Get myself in some danger, but it's not terrifying.
Right.
Like other people being terrifying. It's me put myself in dangerous situations and playing in the dirt.
Right.
That's me. What about you?
It's all of them have pros and cons to them. I'm curious to know what you would choose for me. What do you think would be the one I'd go for?
I would assume you would go for the time travel. It fascinates you so much.
Okay.
And music's involved in it.
Yeah, I could be one of the Wild Stallions. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it that way. That was not the one I was going to choose.
Really? Okay.
For me, it comes down to two. One of them would be Search for Treasure with the Goonies.
Really?
Yeah, because I absolutely wholeheartedly fell in love with that movie. I went and saw it at the theater, and I went by myself. My parents went and saw something else, and they dropped me, and they were at the theater next door, and I went to go see Goonies, and I was all by myself. I would have been in like 7th grade, I think, or going into 7th grade, something like that. I went and saw it. I had no expectations for this movie. I just like went to go, because I had to go with them. And I ended up just being enamored with that movie. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I thought I just loved I loved all the characters. I had a crush on the girls in it. Sloth was amazingly, for a kid that at the time I was 11 years old or something, like perfect age for that movie. So I have a lot of affinity for that. And I love puzzles. I love quests and things like that. I don't necessarily love danger. So that's a really strong choice for me. But the one that's probably more in tune with me would probably be enjoying the day off with Ferris Bueller.
Oh, okay.
I mean, think about it. It's like he goes to like a fancy restaurant. He's driving up and down Lakeshore Drive on a beautiful sunny day, and he goes to a Cubs game, and he goes to the art museum, and then he winds up singing a song like in the middle of a giant parade, singing a Beatles song, doing Twist and Shout, with all those people and everything. It's like that just seems like something that would happen to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's like, that seems legit. That could really happen to you.
Right, exactly. So that out of all of the movies here, that's the one that I probably quote the most. Like, there's just so many good quotes in that movie, especially with around Cameron and stuff. Yeah, I love that movie. So that's probably my choice. If there was some way, hear me out, if there was some way to mash up the story of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, mash that up with like a Goonies kind of thing and make more of something, a conglomerate of that, then that would be perfect.
Kind of like National Treasure, the TV series?
Kind of. Yeah, no, National Treasure, the TV series had the potential for being that, but
it did not.
It didn't follow through. So anyway, that was fun.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, keep
those coming.
Keep those coming. Make sure if you have any more of those choose one things, like post them in the group, or if somebody else puts them up there, let us know your choices, because like we just did, we'll read them on air, and it's fun to do that. So cool. All right, moving on.
What do you suggest?
All right, everybody, we're in the home stretch here. And this is our What Do You Suggest segment, where Megan and I like to suggest things to you that we think it's worth checking out. It could be
new, it could be old.
Right, exactly. It could be all kinds of things. And I think in our cases, they're kind of a little bit of a combination of both, aren't they? Again, keeping on the theme of old and new. So these are kind of a little bit of both. So I'll go first.
Okay, you go first.
So I suggest that you check out the 4D modeling kits that are out there. Now, there was a company that did these. There was called these 4D puzzles and everything. Now, they recently, I believe, if I understood correctly, they got bought out by a company called Spin Master. And they acquired the ownership of the 4D puzzle company. From what I've heard, this is a good thing, because what it's done is it's allowed for better distribution of these puzzles and stuff. And it's also managed to keep costs down and a little bit more realistic. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I can explain to you what this is. It's that they use, as they describe it, they use precision core gate material. And each kit is designed with precision engineering to bring you oversized and accurate models of your favorite ships, characters, and play sets. What I'm talking about here is, and specifically what caught my eye, were the new Star Wars ones, because they partnered with Lucasfilm to make these 4D Star Wars cardstock modeling kits. So what they are is they are modeling kits. They've got the X-Wing, they've got the Millennium Falcon, they've got the Star Destroyer, they've got the AT-AT, the AT-AT, all-terrain armored transport. They've got TIE bombers. They've got all these like cool ships, the Slave One. Plus you can get like big models of like droids like R2-D2, or helmets of like Boba Fett and stormtroopers and stuff. But what they are is they're made of like a really lightweight but durable card stock. These are not like normal model kits where they're made out of like some sort of hard resin plastic or something like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, first thing when I saw these things, I thought Lego, but they're not Lego.
No, and what's really cool about these is they have a look to them that's really Lego-ish, and it also looks like Revell or some of these other model kits, these more, classic kind of model kits. But it's more like a printed cardstock. It's really well done.
Yeah,
and
these look awesome.
They do look awesome. And what's really cool about them is that they're actually from, I don't have these yet. I'm working on this. But they are actually very sturdy. I've seen people on other YouTube channels and stuff talking about these and demonstrating, and they're picking them up and holding. They're like, yeah, you know, you could almost play with these like they're like a toy.
Wow.
You know, you got to still, I'm sure, be gentle with them to a degree. But they're super cool looking. And each kit comes with 2.0 millimeter modeling sheets, detailed instructions, and craft modeling glue. So you do have to use a little bit of glue when you're putting these together. So when you put it together, it becomes a detailed 3D replica collectible. And you can find these easily on Amazon and Target. Those are like the two main places that I found them. One of the best things about it is not only do they look cool, they're really affordable. Most of these average between $30 and $60.
Really?
Yeah. So even like big ones, like the big Star Destroyer kit, I saw it, I think it was at Target, it was like $59.99. Wow. And I mean, anybody that's bought model kits, or especially if you're into the Legos.
Oh, yeah, that's reasonable.
I mean, that same thing at that size and all that stuff would cost you like 6 times more. And you can find them, like I said, they do have a website, and I'll put links down in the description below and everything. But my suggestion, the best place I've found these for availability and price is go on Amazon and go on Target. Those seem to be the two main places where I'm finding these. And if you're not into Star Wars, if you're like, well, I'm more of a Harry Potter person, or I'm more of a Marvel person, or Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, they have stuff for all of those. They have a giant Hogwarts castle play set that looks amazing.
Yeah, they just have like general cityscapes too.
And they do, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I really suggest, I feel like these have kind of flown under the radar for a lot of people because they don't have as much, they're not talked about, they're not as popular as Legos and stuff like that. And these are going to be a little more involved. Legos, you don't have to use glue. This, you do have to use glue. But from everything I've seen about it, it's pretty simple. It's not as complicated. So if you want something more affordable than Legos, but you also want something that's not as complicated as your average like model kit, plastic and resin model kit and everything.
Are those metal ones? Oh, those things piss me off.
Yeah. If you want something that's a little bit different than that, but still has cool detail and cool features and stuff, I definitely suggest checking out these 4D modeling kits.
One of these would be at the Comic-Cons that we go to.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
We have to
I'm
look for
sure
these.
they are. Yeah, next time we go to a Comic-Con, we will definitely have to look these up. So if anybody out there has any of these, please leave comments and let us know. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And if you're interested and you end up getting them, let us know. Or if you need more information from us about it, let us know about that too. So moving on, Megan, what are you suggesting?
I am suggesting the new film based on an old book, A Haunting in Venice. I recently went and saw this. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I don't care what the naysayers say.
Yeah, well,
They're always going to say, oh.
The naysayers have a lot to say about everything, and they've been critical of all the Kenneth Branagh.
All of them, and say he's ruining the character Hercule Poirot. And I was like, I don't know him any other way, but I think he's a great detective, and that's the whole freaking point, right? Yeah,
I don't have any issue with it. I've seen the old movies. I've read some of the books. It's been years. But, I saw the new version. I saw Murder on the Orient Express. I saw Death on the Nile. I thought they were both really, really good. Overall, I really enjoyed them. And those got tore apart by a lot of people as well. People didn't like it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I've seen the play. I actually got a friend about to be in a play, The Murder on the Orient Express, which I'd love to go to.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same.
Right.
I don't see how he's ruining it. But anyway, so this is based on 1969's Agatha Christie's Halloween Party. Very loosely based.
Okay.
And, people are saying, it's like, well, it's made out to be like a scary Halloween movie. And it's like, it's not like a slasher movie, so don't expect like horror and all that kind of stuff. It's not a horror movie, okay, guys?
It's still mystery. It's a mystery novel with a Halloween slant
twist
to it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what this is. It delivers that. But again, this is where I think like the strikes and everything has not given this a chance to explain what it actually is.
Right.
And so people seeing the trailers think it's a horror movie, and it's not.
Right.
It's not. Because I was even going into it like, oh man, I hope this isn't too scary because I'm not big on super scary movies, but it wasn't.
Right.
It was more suspenseful imagery that they used and how he like twisted it around to make it confusing for you as a viewer to kind of feel what that actor's feeling in that moment, that character's feeling. I thought was awesomely done.
Yeah.
You know, it does the close-up shots. It shows them sweating, and you know, I thought it was excellent shots.
Well,
I thought he did a great job with that, and building the suspense and the story. I mean, you could see the ending coming a mile away. So what?
Well, you know, people nowadays, the problem is that, and I haven't seen this movie yet, but I know the story. And the problem is you get people that are just like, oh, I'm not into this. This is so slow and it's so not scary. And it's like, well, look, people, not everything can be a fucking Saw movie.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if you like that stuff, fine.
Have at it, but
Fine. But like, there has to be some other stuff out there. And I like slower paced things. I like things that have a little bit more space and mystery to them, and it's not just about the kill, you know, all the kills and all the gore and the murder and the kills. It's like, okay, we've got that stuff coming out of our ears anymore.
Yeah.
So now when you have something like a Poirot story come along, it's like, yeah, is it slow? Sure, comparatively it is, but you know, it doesn't hurt to now and then take a step back and just kind of enjoy something like that.
yeah, it built the suspense. I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I know you guys really seem to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So I think it's coming out soon, right, for home viewing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you have to wait very long. I don't know if it's actually been announced yet.
Okay, because it did only just come out in
just
September
came
15th.
out, yeah.
All right. So maybe like in November or something like that, it'll come out.
Yeah, but I mean, it says this film received generally positive reviews from critics, and it's grossed $72 million worldwide. So
Ooh, 72 million is kind of low.
Exactly, but that's because they can't promote it. People don't know what to expect. I mean, if they don't like the last two, then a lot of people wrote this off.
Well, I know a lot of people that didn't even see the last two.
This is
People
true,
just
too.
write it off because they just hear things and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a Christie. It's all an old book. Who cares?
It's boring and old. Well,
But
that's
I'm
why that's why we
check
do this.
it out. Give it a chance. It's not horror. It's more suspenseful. If you don't like the last two, Death on Denial and stuff like that, it gives Perot a whole different
angle.
Angle, because the whole reason he's going in is to like debunk what's happening.
Okay.
And then all this other weird shit starts happening to him. So it makes him question what he even knows.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very interesting. And even at the end, you kind of go like, oh, okay. So that's kind of, is it or isn't it?
Leads you a little questions there.
So
okay. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And that's why we do this. That's why we suggest to you,
Go
because it
check
might
it
be
out.
something that you've heard other things about, or you blew off, or maybe you just didn't know about.
Yep.
And we're here
Because
to
of
tell
the
you.
writer's strike
Right.
or the SAG strike.
Yeah, exactly. So lastly, we always recommend another channel, another content creator or something, because we really like to put a focus on other ones besides just ourselves. We enjoy a lot of them regularly, and some of them were even an inspiration for why we started doing this in the first place. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've been really getting into lately have been these channels where you see people that regularly go out and do travel. Now, like when I was growing up, I always loved, what was it, Rick Steves? It was on PBS, where it was like his going over to Europe and everything, you know, traveling through Hungary. And it'd be like an hour-long special of him just showing, you know, I stayed at this hotel and I went here and I checked out all this. I always loved those kind of things.
Okay.
Now on YouTube, there's a whole bunch of channels that do similar things. There's ones where it's focused on Vegas, or there's ones where it's people that specifically go on all the different like cross-country train rides and
cruise
stuff.
ships.
Or cruise ships. And that's the one I want to focus on with this one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That was an accident.
Yeah, so the one I want to recommend is a show called Views and Cues. So it's a younger couple named Brian and Carrie. They live in Florida, which is convenient, so they don't have to worry about doing a whole lot of travel to get to the cruises, but they regularly, usually at least a couple of times or a few times a year, go on various cruise ships. And they do different kinds of cruises. Sometimes they do Disney cruises.
Okay.
Because there's several different ones.
Jealous.
But they do things like they'll go on the Royal Caribbean cruises, which are the ones I've been on before. And they've done different ones. And because they've done so many of them, they have a lot of good perspective on what makes each one sort of unique from each other. Mm-hmm. And they also will do different levels. Like sometimes they'll splurge and they'll be like, we're on this Disney cruise and we got like the big package where, you know, we're staying in this really nice suite and we've got all these luxury things, you know. And then other times they'll go on a cruise where they're like, we're doing like the
basics,
the basic package, and they explain and show all the different, you know, nuances of that and how they differ from one another. They're both pretty silly, you know, they're just young and silly and having fun. But I like that even when they're critical, they're never like overly negative. They're always happy to be there. They're always like trying to accentuate the positive and show like, here's how you can have fun doing this. And they'll show you like everything from the minutia of like, here's the new merchandise they have this season, especially like on the Disney ships where a lot of it's collectible things and stuff. Here's like the new merchandise you can expect for, you know, this season, all the way up through, you know, here's what the entertainment is like, and here's what the restaurants have to offer, and here's what the view is like, and here's why getting this kind of room might be more fun than this kind of room because it has this, you know, compared to that one, and all that. It's just, it's nice. And they go over every little detail, and as well as showing off what they can of what to do when you get to your destinations. You know, if you're going to the Caribbean or you're going to Mexico or you're going to the Bahamas, whatever, you know, you're going to these different places, they'll show you like things you can do there. So it just kind of helps guide you if you're thinking about doing it, or if in my case, and I'm sure a lot of your cases out there, if we can't afford to go.
You can live through it.
You can watch and sort of live vicariously through it. Yeah, exactly.
With all the Disney ones I watch.
Right.
Just gonna live through watching them.
Right. You like watching all your
reminiscing when
all
we
your
could go.
your Disney park stuff and Disney World things. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. So and it's all done in a laid back and lighthearted way, and it's really informative and entertaining. So they've got their own website, which would be, you know, www.viewsandcues. Now, the way they're spelling cues is Queueus. Queue meaning like queuing up, standing in line, so on. You know, same thing on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@viewsandcues. And it's all very family friendly. It's not like something that's not work safe or something you'd have to be worried about watching if you've got kids or something like that. Like they watch their language for, you know, and all this. It's meant to be more wholesome, fun kind of entertainment and everything. And it's really cool. I really like it. So if you're like me and you like watching that stuff, and I know we've got some friends, we've got people that are in the squad group like Carrie and Kim, and
I think they're on a cruise right now.
They probably are. Yeah, there's I know that we've got some members of the squad out there that are into going on these trips and these cruises. So, you know, check it out. And with that, I think that's it.
That's it. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was quite a bit. It's another long one. It's hard to keep these squad casts like short, you know.
We used to cover.
Yeah, we used to be like, oh, it's got to be an hour long, you know. But it's like, I think an hour long.
How do we do these in a month?
I was just
a month. I don't even know how we did that.
Yeah, I don't, you know. But there's so much that went on this month. I think if we were doing this every week and we were trying to keep it to an hour or less, we could do that. But when we're doing this every other week with so much new stuff going on, and there's a lot of things we didn't even touch on. So anyway, with that, it's about time for us to saunter our way back out the door here. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of this. If you're not already watching and listening, we've got Ahsoka review.
Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, all the good stuff.
Yep. And do all that, and we will be back in 2 weeks. In the meantime, take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See ya.